Just waiting on viewers. We will be exploring the boundaries of the mind in this audio. Chapter 2 of the Subliminal Technology book. In Chapter 1, we basically discussed the self-sabotaging of our belief system and how it can ruin our manifesting process. And now Chapter 2 is basically digging deeper into the science of the mind and how it works and functions. So here we go. What is the limit to the power of the mind? For years, the power of positive thinking has been heralded as almost a supreme power to attract and create wealth, power, relationships, success, and general prosperity of all kinds. Recently, at least within, say, the past 30 to 40 years, the power of the mind has also been championed as the body's great healer. Words and abbreviations have been added to our vocabulary to accommodate the exchange of ideas regarding the seemingly miraculous interface between mind and body. Words such as psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI for short. More recently, several researchers have stepped forward to inform us that our thoughts, the stuff in our minds, engage and activate the DNA molecule. And for this, labels such as novelty, mnemonism, neurogenesis, and psychosocial genomics, genomics, that's what it actually says, have been added to our vocabulary. This is why us basic people don't understand the terminology of science, because it's not actually published in our limited knowledge of books. Does mind power have limits? Think of it. What is the limit of the mind? Is it possibly among our few remaining and largely unexplored frontiers? More important, what does novelty, numerism, neurogenesis have to do with hypnosis or subliminal learning? One of my icons is Ernest Lawrence Rossi, PhD. He is the recipient of 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards for outstanding contributions to the field of psychotherapy from the Milton H. Erickson Foundation in 1980, the American Association of Psychotherapy in 2003, and the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis in 2008. He's also a Jungian analyst and the science editor of Psychological Perspectives. Rossi has shown that through the use of hypnosis, the modulation of activity-dependent gene expression can be manipulated. In his words, these words is his exact words. The molecule messenger generated by stress, injury, and disease can activate immediate early genes within stem cells so that they then signal the target genes required to synthesize the proteins that will transform stem cells into mature, well-functioning tissues. Such activity-dependent gene functions and its consequent activity-dependent neurogenesis and stem cell healing is proposed as the molecule genomic cellular basis of rehabilitative medicine, physical and occupational therapy, as well as the many alternatives and complementary approaches to mind-body healing. Oof, I need to take a breath for that one. He also states, the therapeutic replaying of enriching life experiences that invoke the novelty, numerism, neurogenesis effect during creative moments of art, music, dance, drama, humor, literature, poetry, and even spirituality, as well as cultural rituals of life transitions, can optimize consciousness, personal relationships, and even healing. Rossi has shown that these life-enriching experiences can be replayed or even created in the mind, and they can evoke the novelty, numerism, neurogenesis effect. However, he points out in an article published by Annals of Psychotherapy and Integrative Health, the official journal of the numerism, neurogenesis effect, is that it is very vulnerable to conflict, trauma, stress, and outright manipulation by authorization social forces that seek to manipulate human belief systems and behavior. Our organic programming, compliance. I discussed many ways that we're all manipulated or brainwashed to some degree every day in my book, Mind Programming. One of the most used methods involves activating an altered state of consciousness to program the subconscious. You'll learn all about altered states of consciousness later in this book. So for the moment, let me just point out that the same brainwave state we associate with hypnosis, known as alpha, is the state we all go into when we watch television. The fact is that the average person will slip into alpha within minutes, and many will in a matter of seconds. This is a state of hyper-suggestibility, and therefore we're prone to accept suggestions, to buy products, and believe in certain ideas. So as it turns out, most of us have been deliberately programmed without our knowledge for our entire life. At least to some extent. It also doesn't help that our own psychology can be used against us. I see this most clearly in the principles of compliance. I cover this issue in depth in my book, Mind Programming. But basically, there are 11 principles of compliance, which are character traits, desires, and needs that allow others to manipulate us. Number 1, social beliefs. These are among our strongest personal beliefs and often conflict with individual desires. We're basically told what's acceptable and what isn't. And being herd animals, we simply follow along. Number 2, reciprocating. Studies have shown that the act of gift giving produces the need to reciprocate. From a warm handshake to inside information, a favor extended implies a gift in return, persuasion, compliance, and negotiation. Expert Dr. Robert calls it the old give and take and take. And number 3, social proof. Merchants list testimony after testimony from faithful, satisfied users to sell as their wares. What many agreed to must be true, good, and desirable. But remember, not so long ago, everyone believed the earth was flat. Number 4, association. This is the effort to link favorable feelings with the product or aim. We see politicians with apple pie, babies, and the American flag. We see stunning men and women in the most unlikely of places, with the most unlikely of apparel, just to connect the product with these images. Similarly, television producers use canned comedy laughter to punctuate comedy, to enhance comedy. Many people don't actively notice this, for in our culture we often overlook sound. Don't discount even the most innocent of features that accompany a product or advertisement. The companies behind them spend billions annually on deliberately applying skillful knowledge to manipulate you. Number 5, conditioning and association. As with the association intentionally built into most advertising, certain consciously undetected associations can operate on existing conditioning and pair with it to produce new conditioning. Number 6, liking. The more we identify with others and feel comfortable with them, the more we like people. The more often we comply with their requests. Discussing anything so obvious may seem ridiculous, but the liking principle is nauseous, unfamiliar to most of us, such as it is mechanical features. This means, for example, that if a smiley face is paired with a country's flag, we'll be predisposed to like that country. Number 7, authority. Authority has a ring to, similar to the secret of retail success. Location, huh? Everywhere we turn today, the authority instructs, informs, and becomes that which we come to trust with our very lives. How did we survive before we had so many different experts? Everything in the world is sold partly on the basis of authority. We must rely on this sometimes in our high-tech society, yet blind reliance is absolute ignorance. Fortunately, more and more people have become suspicious of authorities. More important, modern technology makes it possible for any of us to check on information and experts much more rapidly. Number 8, scarcity. This is the last one. Better take it. Act now. Limited quantity. Don't delay. Don't miss out. Time is limited. Sale ends today. Hurry. First come, first served. These are but a few of the scarcity statements we find in advertisement for everything from pickles to pantyhose. Why does this compliance principle of scarcity drive us, in a word, to greed? Number 9, drives. These are the basic built-in needs of the species. In psychology, human drives or forces are often referred to as the 4 F's: fight, flight, feeding, and fornication. I tend to think that these have evolved with the advent of modern merchandising and deferred payments. Consequently, my view incorporates 5 F's. What is the 5th force? Simple. More. No one has enough. Everyone wants more. Gain has somehow become desirable in itself. Today, the word more equals power, prestige, status, and peace of mind. It now means quality as much as quantity. Keep up with the Joneses. Number 10, justification. Instantiating circumstances can justify radical actions. Indeed, a tenet of our jurisprudence system allows for this, which is why there are rulings such as self-defense, justifiables, homicide, and the like. This principle is probably the most often overlooked tool of compliance. An excellent example of its power exists in a classic television commercial. The viewer sees a woman performing the many tasks of an absolutely frantic day: shopping, cleaning, caring for children, banking, and so forth. At the end of the day, she's a very beautiful and seductive woman, relaxes in her bath, covered by foam. The spot advertises a bubble bath and ends with the statement, "Let XYZ product take you away." It's an excellent commercial that employs more than one compliance principle. Still, it's the notion of justifying indulgence that makes it so powerful. How else do you still sell bubble baths? Number 11, informed compliance. Being informed doesn't necessarily remove us from the power of these principles. They obtain most of their power because they operate automatically, not from thinking a matter over. Cialdini, whatever that means, refers to the response as click. Interesting. It's spelled Cialdini. That is the term. Refers to the response as click. He and other social scientists regard this automatically as necessary. Normally, we benefit from sticking with people we like, who have done favors for us and who have authority. What would happen if we simply reversed all these patterns? In mind programming, I also show how much manipulation goes on in our media. On behalf of almost everyone who has a product or a soundbite he or she wants us to believe. Bottom line, when we know the abuse is already present, it's easy to begin to think that we live under a mediocracy. The best defense is knowledge. I've also learned that the best way out of programming is reprogramming. The two most effective techniques I've found for this are hypnosis and subliminal communication. And that's what I intend to teach you in this book. However, let's first continue looking at other factors that exert control over our lives. Personality. Personality also plays a significant role in what you can expect to experience in life, and in particular, your degree of sickness and unhealth. Medical professionals often deal with personality as experimental. Scientists deal with random variables. And without the natural differences, such terms as normal or pathological have no meaning. The variable we call personality is the essence of the human condition. In fact, it extends beyond the human sphere into at least the animal kingdom. But does personality have anything to do with illness? A number of cases clearly demonstrate that it can influence the manifestation of disease. This is so well documented that specific personality types have gained recognition as leading candidates for each of the 7 psychosomatic alignments. Peptic ulcers, ulcerative colitis, hypertension, hyperthyroidism, rheumatoid arthritis, neurodermatitis, and asthma. Multiple personality patients routinely devastate mechanistic beliefs about the body. A patient may test totally normal in every psychological sense, but with the shift of personality, some as quick as the snap of a finger, the individual may exhibit hypoglycemia or even diabetes. How does a personality shift alter body chemistry in seconds? Can a personal belief system such as who I am alter cellular behavior instantly? Dr. Frank Putnam of the National Institute of Health studied how many people with multiple personality disorder go from one personality to the other. He found that their EEGs change as dramatically as though the electrodes have been taken off one person and placed on another. Other such patients have demonstrated everything from eye color change to having one menstruation cycle per month for even personality housed within the patient. A change in personality can cause an instant transformation in the way that cells behave. What mechanism allows for such a dramatic shift in a person's blood chemistry? What trigger exists to make this possible? In another instance of the mind influencing the body, Dr. Madeline of the University of Pennsylvania has linked helplessness to cancer. She concluded that this quality is somehow taken by the body to mean an absence of the ability of the organism to resist tumor development. Researchers at Duke University showed hostility and mistrust to be key predictors of heart disease and early death. Summarized the group. Another PhD doctor also summarized a group of European studies and found the following results. 1. Individuals who tended to repress their emotions in the face of stress were far likelier than others to die of cancer. 2. Those who rated high on emotional frustration and aggression had a high rate of cardiac-related death. 3. Personality variables such as were more predictive than smoking in the occurrence of lung cancer. For example, smoking was virtually a prestigious way for getting lung cancer, but of the smokers, only the emotionally repressive types seem to contract the disease. There's further evidence that personality ties in with clusters of diseases. At Georgia State University, whoop whoop, researchers discovered that people with eating and drinking disorders also suffered depression, indecisions, chronic fatigue, low self-esteem, physical weakness, and hopelessness. At the University of Texas in Austin, higher cancer rates occurred in understimulated mice and mice with minimal expressive behavior. Carl Goodkin of Stanford University School of Medicine reviewed studies of women prone to cervical cancer. He created this composite personality type that he suggests in the high risk for cancer. 1. Overly cooperative. 2. Extremely self-sacrificing. 3. Overly optimistic to the extent that they are in the state of denial of reality. 4. Sociable to a fault. However, women who developed cervical cancer had these traits as well. 1. Tended to be hostile. 2. Fearless. 3. Hard-headed. 4. Punitive towards others. And 5. Blunt in social situations. Wow. Mind blown. What have we discovered from these pathogenetic personality models? Nearly every type or characteristic has appeared. However, you need not fear that personality kills. Notice the qualifiers of excess. Overly cooperative, not altruistic, but extremely self-sacrificing. Hostile rather than assertive. Fearless instead of brave. Traditional cultures always associate health with balance. We may catch up with the traditions. We've already recorded personality profile characteristics of many illnesses. This might already serve to predict disease-prone or at-risk persons. Researchers have linked precursors to many illnesses. Mononucleosis to stress in school, herpes to loneliness, positive mood, hope and social support to cancer survivors, tough-mindedness and the will to live with AIDS survival. Stress. Hans introduced stress as a factor affecting health. Seyl's lifetime of groundbreaking research culminated in a theory of how mental and or physical stress is transduced into psychosomatic problems by hormones of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis of the endocrine system. This is why I'm not a doctor, ladies and gentlemen. That alone would have got me fired. Scars and Harris confirmed and expanded Sey's work. They gave us the discovery that secretory cells within the hypothalamus could convert neural impulses that coded mind into the hormonal messenger molecules of the endocrine system that regulate the body. So out of breath. Okay, they're basically talking about a bunch of doctors that have studied how stress and personality can actually affect also the way we vibrate, the way we manifest, things like that. Okay? We also just talked about the subliminals. And I am going to read a little bit more. And here we go. I just needed a breather. Sheldon of Mellon University in Pittsburgh reported a study that links emotional stress to the common cold. Cohen's group found that the rates of respiratory infections and colds increased in accordance with stress levels reported on questionnaires. The stress pattern held despite statistical controls for various influences on immune function, including age, sex, education, allergies, weight, viral status prior to the study, cigarettes and alcohol, exercise, diet, quality of sleep, number of housemates, and housemate infection rates. The link between stress and colds also proved to be true independent of the personality characteristics assessed by the questionnaires. Life's various circumstances connect with wellness. A researcher at The Ohio State University reported that marital stress weakened the immune response. Who would have knew that? Being married weakened your immune system. George Solomon of the UCLA originated the concept of, another scientific word, psychonumeral immunology. He also reports that the stress and strain of life crisis states diminish the immune response. Ted Melonechuk, what kind of last name is that? Director of Research Communications for the Institute for the Advancement of Health, adds the following observations. Men married to dying women have a lower immune response. Monkeys separated from their mothers experience immune suppression. Visual imagery has been shown to decrease tumor growth. That's pretty cool. And number 4, nerve signals have been shown to travel from the brain to the thymus and back to the brain, demonstrating a two-way communication with this important relay station for immune substances. Dr. Henry Bennett at the University of California believes that he can demonstrate the connection of the biochemical stress hormones to more than just the immune system. He has cited evidence that these hormones have something to do with consolidating memories. Remembering this one, because I believe that, added to our other data, it will become more significant. What happens when you reverse some of these patterns? Basically reprogramming your brain. Some years back, cosmetic surgeon Dr. Robert Youngblood employed a subliminal audio program that I made to lower stress and anxiety in patients about to undergo surgical operations. We hypnotized that lowering patient stress, anxiety, and associated feelings would reduce anesthetic requirements. He examined the records of 360 patients who'd undergo the same or similar surgical procedures to determine total anesthetic usage, and our hypnosis proved valid. He applied the audio program during pre- and postpartum, before procedures, and throughout surgery. The overall anesthetic requirement declined by 32% in the patient group that received the subliminal program. Thus, Group B, the experimental group, which also consisted of 360 patients, required almost 1/3 less medication than Group A. The historical group control group. On analysts, another result emerged. The post-secondary care requirement also substantially declined. We went on to conduct a study at a medical facility in Nevada that offers a number of different high-tech procedures, including magnetic resonance imagery, MRIs, basically. This test allows 3D pictures of the inside of the body, including soft tissue. No other test offers the information that it can provide. MRIs require that the subject be loaded down a skid into a chamber. In the words of one of the techs, they have to put patients slowly through a long, very narrow, complicated metal tube. Inevitably, some patients fear closed-in spaces. That's me. I'm claustrophobic as hell. In addition, most have some anxiety about the sheer quantity of machinery, the sterile surroundings, the kinds of tests they're undergoing, medical care in general, and hospitals in particular. A CAT scan only requires that the patient go through a ring, but some need sedation even for that. The medical facility asked us to create an audio program that would enhance these conditions. We employed a combination of special frequencies designed to entrain or pace the brain while stimulating certain effects, and we added subliminal messages and guided imagery. The chief CT technician reported a complete elimination of phobic responses when the audio program was used. The mind, the brain was again altering physical and emotional experiences. While in Nevada, I learned that many hypnotists, in the state apply hypnosis for breast enlargement. Indeed, the research clarity shows that hypnosis can be used to even enlarge breast. In 1971, Peter Mutt reported his results to the Department of Neuropsychiatry at UCLA, showed for the first time how this could be done. Since then, several scientific studies have replicated this finding. Following the pioneering work of Mutt, the development of subliminal inner talk program to test its effectiveness as breast augmentation. In one clinical study carried out in the UK and published in What Medicine, women reported approximately 2 centimeters of breast growth and a fuller cap size within 30 days. Where are the boundaries? Where should we take them? What else is the mind capable of? Exploring the far reaches of mind power. Exploring the mind and pushing its capabilities so that it works for us as opposed to against us has long been my passion. I decided long ago that believing in yourself always matters. And I covered much of the reasoning behind this in the book, I Believe. When what you believe matters. However, while the purpose of this book is to teach you tools you can use rather than provide you with the treatise of the mind, I do think it's important to have at least a basic understanding so that you have some idea of what's possible. Here are just a few highlights of the facts and findings I shared in I Believe, a few of which we have already touched upon, but they're worth repeating. 1. As we've just seen, the mind and beliefs can influence our DNA. 2. Belief can also deliver the strangest of maladies, complete with physical symptoms. Indeed, in some instance of mass hysteria, an entire group has fallen ill with the same symptoms, such as a rash, high temperature, or abnormal blood counts. In one such instance of mass psychogenic illness, several people reported symptoms that included dizziness, muscle cramps, tremors, and shortness of breath. This occurred in Beirut at the time when the city was under near constant threats of violence, and the case was reported to the St. George Hospital University Medical Center, where the attending healthcare professionals finally diagnosed the problem as mass psychogenic illness, aka epidemic sociogenic attacks. Number 3. There are documented multiple personality cases where the subject has normal blood sugar in one personality, and in an instant that another personality takes over, the subject will test hyperglycemic. As if that isn't enough to ponder, consider this. There are cases in which eye color changes with the personality, and ones in which extreme allergies come and go with the switches. Number 4, the power of your intention, thoughts, has a well-documented influence on random number and random event generators. According to Dean Radin's Entangled Minds, the calculated odds that the effects observed in these studies were random or chances are 1 in 10. Thoughts influence machines. Number 5, remote viewing. The power of the mind to see things at a distance has been well studied. Ingo Swann, working with the Stanford Research Institute in California, particularly with researchers Russell and Harold, as chronicled in their book Mind Reach, initiated a multi-million-dollar government project that lasted years investigating the influence of mind on matter and the possibilities of employing remote viewing as a spy tool. One of Swann's most impressive feats occurred during a study where they looked at the possibility that he could influence the output of the magnetometer, a device that detects and measures the magnetic field, detecting the tiniest vibration of subatomic particles while screening out the strong vibrations from the most common electromagnetic fields. That's what that means. Magnetometer. That was the definition for it. Using just his mind, not only was Swann successful at affecting the output of the machine, he also projected his mind into the apparatus to see what the inside were like. He was basically able to draw the insides of the machine, something that hadn't been published anywhere. Even though the magnetometer internal parts were shielded in alternating layers of aluminum, copper, and other metals to block electromagnetic and other kinds of fields, and it was then encased in concrete 5 feet below the lab floor. There was no way for Swann to actually see or interact with the device. Number 6, mind. Consciousness has also been shown to influence plants. Cleve Baxter, a fellow former lie detection examiner, showed not only that plants respond to human consciousness and actions, but also that they have memory. Baxter claimed to be able to measure the influence of consciousness on white blood cells, eggs, and yogurt cultures. Harold and Randall at the Stanford Research Institute published a paper that supports Baxter's view of consciousness in a report called Organic Biofield Sensors. Randall's career path was largely set by his graduate project, in which he sought to research the action potential in the algae to determine sensitivity in various external stimuli. His conclusion clearly demonstrated a reaction or exchange of some kind that takes place between plant and human consciousness. And his research was highlighted in the best-selling book, The Secret Life of Plants, by Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird. Number 7. Mind has been shown to exert effects over a distance. In my book Wellness, Just a State of Mind, I reported on how some cells were removed from the body and then divided between two petri dishes. One dish was taken as many as 5 miles away from the other. Yet, when an electrical shock was delivered in one set of cells, the other set responded as though they've just received a direct current. Cell consciousness was communicating at a distance. Number 8. Trained meditators control many aspects of their bodily functions. Dr. Herbert of Harvard Medical School has reported on the Tibetan monks who can produce enough body heat to dry wet sheets placed on their shoulders in a cold, damp room. According to the Harvard Gazette, this type of temperature control is common among trained meditators. What about the other 90%? As you can see, the mind has repeatedly been shown to have abilities beyond the merely mechanical. There are those who would like to say this is because most of us only use about 10% of our brains, and that it's the other 90% that holds this supreme potential. Well, the truth is that no such measurements have ever been made. However, this is a powerful metaphor for looking at limitations. Savants have demonstrated amazing abilities in certain areas, such as telling you on what day of the week your birthday will fall 50 years hence, even before you can finish your sentence. So the question is, can we find our own inner savant? Could we all have such skills if we only believed that we could? Could we at least train this ability within ourselves if we believed the end of our would be successful, always? In contrast to all the marvelous potential we might conjure up, there are also many sinister possibilities. In my book, Mind Programming, I cited the conclusion reached by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency regarding brainwashing, as reported to Congress by Jules Romans, which stated flatly that a man could be persuaded to kill his aged parents and cook them in a stew. What then in real power of the mind and the engine that appears to drive its most spectacular possibilities? In a word, belief. In my view, this is the ultimate frontier. One day, perhaps, we'll have the switch that turns on the belief, and we'll be able to trigger within ourselves a cure for cancer. Just as easily as flipping on a light. Or maybe we'll want to experience being lighter than air. So we'll engage yet another switch, and by Allah, we'll be able to levitate. The power of mind and its vested belief. This is what I hold to be true. Belief dictates your life as surely as magnetism directs a compass needle. If you deem yourself unworthy, you'll prove it to be so. If you think you're unfit, you'll find a way to manifest that. I can't overemphasize the potential power in our beliefs and the necessity of choosing them wisely. Unfortunately, most of us haven't consciously chosen the bulk of our beliefs. In my book, What If?, I made the case for examining your life and all that you hold true. As Socrates is credited with saying, "The unexamined life is not worth living." I believe that you have both the prerogative and the obligation to know what you think and why. Those who choose to close their minds, believing that they know all there is to know, that they have the only right way, or that there's no such thing as blank. Yeah, miracles. Have blinded themselves to experiencing much of the true meaning in life. and of being who they really are. It's popular in certain circles today to believe that science has all the answers. This is interesting, especially when those who make this claim often fail at being true scientists. Fail by definition for a scientist is someone who investigates, not someone who closes the mind and refuses to look. Skeptic is another word often heard nowadays to describe those who banish the possibility of life being more than just what's currently provable. This too is a misnomer. It's bad. This is a blockage, for the word implies openness to inquiry. History informs us that true skeptics eventually find that nothing is certain, including science. Epistemological certainty simply doesn't exist except for uncertainty, and that can't be known for sure. What do you believe? So what is it you truly believe? Those tenets can empower your life or cripple your every hope and ambition. The good news is that the tools you'll acquire from this workbook and the accompanying audio and video material will empower you to choose the programming that serves your highest aspirations. I hope you remember to use it often, for I know you absolutely possess an awesome power within you. Tomorrow I will be doing Chapter 2, Part 2, which is deeply on the topic of hypnosis. I hope you guys share this video, expand some consciousness this weekend. Some people need some education or some subliminal messages in their head, and this can probably be the perfect subliminal. Who knows? I got faith in it. So, this is a really good book. It's really informative. It really opens your mind up to think about all aspects and all angles. Like I said, we will be doing Chapter 2, Part 2 tomorrow, which is on strictly hypnosis. The book is by Eldon Taylor, and it's called Self-Hypnosis and Subliminal Technology. It comes with a free CD for hypnosis also, but I bought mine used. I just wanted the information. That's all I wanted. I didn't care who owned it before me, if it was brand new, what. I got what I wanted. I'm happy, and I'm glad that I can expand this knowledge to you souls. And I would love and appreciate and honor if you expand it to more souls out there. Let them learn what their own blockages are, why there's something always missing in our lives, or we feel like something's always missing. When in all reality, it's just our belief system that needs altering, to being reprogrammed instead. It's basically unlearning what you've been taught your whole life and thinking for yourself, starting all over again. That can be frightening to some people. But I feel like if we have each other's back in this awakening process, we can make it as smooth as possible. So, spread the wisdom. Celestial blessings. One love, fam. Stay blessed, stay grounded, stay woke, stay shielded. Love yous.